we're basically going to start off with a sample of, just using kind of a simplified data set and then get into actual bills of material. The reason for that is I want to declutter some of the things related to the bill of material. So we're going to start off with a very basic example. And so you should now be able to see the Excel file, and you'll see over here in column A, the data set we're going to work with is Nobel Prize winners, right? So you can see over here in the first column, and all of the tabs are going to be really set up this way, where we'll have some data that we're working with in gray on the left-hand side, and then in column B is where we're actually going to do the work. And so the first thing that I want to show you and is going to be related to substitutions. And the way this applies is sometimes you'll have a character or something like that in your Excel file that you want to replace. The best example of that usually is a lot of customers will put in like an asterisk or something like that, where they meant to say that this can be a wildcard towards the end of the part. Well, if you do a find and replace, what happens is it interprets that asterisk to mean that it can be anything. And so it'll actually replace all of your text, and you don't want to do that. So that's where a formula approach works a lot better. So let's do that here. The objective on this sample data set is to replace this underscore, which is at various points in the middle of the text, with just a space. And again, right now we're working with a sample data set. And then once we go through each of these formulas in the sample data set, then we're going to get into actually working a real bill of material using the same concepts that we learned with the sample data set. So the way that we would do this is that we're going to create a formula, and it's called a substitution formula. So I'm going to put an equal sign and write substitute and put a parenthesis. And any formula that you do in Excel will start off with, typically it'll be equal sign and then the name of that formula. And as you type, you should see that there is little indicators down here of what you're supposed to put in each one. And so you'll get used to interpreting what that means. So here it's saying text. So we just want to reference the text that we are pulling from. So I'm going to click over here. I could type in A3 if I wanted to, and it'll point to that cell, or I can just use my mouse and I can click here as well. Either way, same thing. The next thing is it's saying, okay, what is the old text that you want to find? And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the new text that we want to replace it with. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to replace the underscore. Now I can't just put in an underscore just like this, because Excel doesn't know what to do with that. Anytime you're dealing with text, you want to put it in between two quotation marks. So I'm going to say quotation underscore quotation. And that means it's going to look for a text value that is an underscore. And then we're going to replace it with a space value. And again, I can't just put in a space. I'm going to put quotation, space, quotation, and that's it. Now, the other thing here is it says instance number, and it has it in brackets. When it's in brackets like this, that means it's an optional field and we don't have to populate it. So in this case, I'm not going to populate it. I'm just going to close the parenthesis. And that is the complete version of my formula. When I push enter, you'll see that it has taken this right here and taken the underscore out and replaced it with a space. Now I could do the same thing if I wanted to. I could say take this old text and replace the underscore with, let's say the letter X. And if I do that, now it's replaced it with an X. So you can really do a find and replace anything, anything you wanted to from one to a different substitution. The other thing I want to point out here is if I want to apply this all the way to all the data that I have, usually on the bottom right, you'll see this tiny little square at the bottom right corner of my cell. And when I hover over it, it gives me these crosshairs. I can just double click when I turn into the crosshairs. Whoops, missed it. There we go. And what that does is it just copies the formula all the way down until the bottom of my data set. So now you can see with the substitution function, I've gotten to be able to replace the underscore with a space. Okay.